Yeah.
It's a beautiful
And
thing, man.
before we get started, I want to say to Mr. Clear, I'm rooting for Calabar just because it's the
By the way, okay, Nick, you came third.
I'm rooting for Calabar every year.
I know, Nick. I know.
Every year.
Guess what? Guess what? My school, we didn't get a point. I think we only had one athlete.
What's
So
that?
therefore, your cast in the greatest parish in Jamaica, St. Anne, the parish of Bob
Oh,
Marley.
Oh, I'm gonna have to disagree with that. The greatest parish is Saint Mary.
Okay, Nick, you are a
Yeah.
guest. And as Miguel would say, we have 14 best parishes. All right.
very true. Very true. You
All
see
right.
what our Miss Universe representing us, so we have
Yeah.
to hold strong for the
Yeah.
whole country.
Yeah.
But absolutely, Erwin, when I see a young man like Nick who's putting in the work and striving for greatness, Nick, it automatically makes me start to think of how proud your parents and family must be. So that's where I want to start. Tell us a bit more about your upbringing. How has your culture shaped your childhood, and ultimately the confidence you approach the world with today?
Definitely, definitely. My family, they're listening right now, some in Jamaica, some in New York, some in Florida. So just wanted to say good evening to my family. They're the people that like you said, they brought me up. Without them, I wouldn't be here speaking to you because we're very blessed to have such a close-knit family. It started with my grandmother. My grandma is from St. Mary, Jacks River and St. Mary. And they came to this country with pretty much nothing, 8 children that she raised with my grandfather over here. And yeah, growing up, I was always supported in everything I wanted to do. I grew up wanting to entertain. I mean, my mom for Christmas one year gave me a microphone because she knows that I'm always just at every family function. Nick wants to be the one to make everybody laugh and be, acting crazy and everything like that. So there never was a time where I was told, you need to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer, you need to do this, you need to do that. They pretty much just nurtured me and let me go with whatever my passion was. So I really appreciated that at an early age. I had cousins that decided to do similar things. I have a cousin, Sharifa. I hope she's listening. Hey, Sharifa. I saw her doing pageants and acting early on. So that kind of inspired me at an early age to know that it's possible to want to go that route and do it. And obviously, all of my cousins grow up as Jamaican Americans in New York, and we're watching things like Shatas and there was a time we were watching Dancehall Queen, and my grandmother literally took the VHS out, the VCR, and bashed with a broom, reading Bible scriptures while she was doing that. So
She didn't say to go to church this Sunday. You had to go to
yeah.
church this Sunday.
So that was the type of family dynamic I had. Very supportive. Everybody loves to laugh. We grew up around the dining table, and I think that was very important for my upbringing, knowing that whatever happens in life, I know I still have my family. So everything that's happening right now is beautiful and everything. I appreciate it. But if it was to ever go away, it really wouldn't phase me because I know at the end of the day, I have what really matters, which is my real people.
Nah, that is absolutely beautiful to hear because typically a kid goes to mom and dad and say, "Hey, I want to be an actor," and they're gonna say, "A what?" And so it's beautiful to hear how your family has supported you. But you started your career in sports journalism. What was your inspiration there, and can you just share some of the moments that you're most fond of from
Yeah,
that
sure.
experience?
Sports journalism it's still a passion of mine. I put it in the back seat to acting right now, but when I was in college, at first I was a pre-law major, funny enough. I was a pre-law major and I minored in journalism. So after political theory 102, I said, you know what? This is definitely isn't it. I'm not doing this. So I had my extracurricular at school was being on the sports debate show at school. And, I looked at people like Stephen A. Smith and Stuart Scott as I'm in college. And I'm like, you know what? If they can get paid for this, why shouldn't I be able to get paid for this? And I started to kind of go in that route, saying that I don't want a job that I go in upset. I want a job where I'm looking to go right back to work the next day. And I started out working for Fox Sports in LA right after college. I was an NBA page editor. So I was basically editing the writers, but I really wanted to be on screen and I wanted to be interviewing people like I was in college. And eventually I got my first break at AOL Sports, where I interviewed the likes of Derek Jeter, Alonzo Mourning, um, Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Garnett, a whole bunch of different athletes that we all have grown to love. I mean, one of my favorite interviews was Shaquille O'Neal, just from the fact alone that he's literally, I
A
stand
tree.
like next to his torso. It's crazy how tall he is. But he was a really cool guy, and yeah, I had a great time doing sports journalism. But I decided that, while it was fun, I really wanted to go back to my true passion of acting. And I got a taste of acting when I was doing sports journalism at AOL, because one of the shows we produced was called 2 Point Lead, and it was a satirical sports show. So after I would interview somebody like Derek Jeter one-on-one, we would go into skits that we would design for these athletes, and they would actually act with us in these skits. And one particular skit I did was where I played Steph Curry, and we hired an actress to be my daughter, Riley, and that went viral. And when I saw Steph at the NBA 2K event, he was like, "Oh, this dude thinks he's me." And
Yeah.
that, I was, you know what? I really want to get back into acting. So I started to focus on that a little more.
No, this is beautiful stuff. It's so difficult for so many students to, see the things in sports that they love every day. It's tough for them to imagine it as a career. And so just hearing your journey there is beautiful. I want you to break down for me, you got your first major break in David Makes Man as Desmond. And right away you hear Desmond, it's a
Desmond,
Jamaican.
say my bad man.
But so please listen, break down, what was that experience like? What were some of the things you learned from that production? And also jump into where you are now, right?
Yeah.
Law and order, organized crime. Break down just that experience for us.
The role of Desmond actually came about, like I told you earlier, or like you mentioned in my bio, through this skit that I had made while I was working a full-time corporate job, making documentary films. I went to a restaurant. Long story short, this woman gave me oxtail, and she didn't put that much gravy on the rice, but the manager saw, and she came back with a full container of gravy for me. And to me, that's literally like hitting the lottery. That's not common, because you don't ever find a Jamaican woman at a restaurant who's going to give you a full container of gravy without
This is
charging
true.
you $10.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I saw that and I said, this is hilarious because this doesn't happen. So I decided to put on a shirt that I wore to Penn Relays, actually, this Jamaica shirt. And I used this character that I had, and I talked about the oxtail gravy, and it went viral. And all of a sudden that night, I realized that Carmen Cuba Casting, the same casting director who's casted shows like Stranger Things, they sent me a direct message on social media, and I'm like, wait a second, this has to be fake. So I auditioned for the role. Within a week, I found out that I got a call back. I got the role, and before you knew it, this is my first time ever. I'm being flown out and driven in a limo to set, and I'm like, what's going on, And just being on set for the first time, from not being behind the camera, because I've produced things behind the camera, but being on a major set with an Oscar winner like Terrell McCraney, who co-wrote Moonlight. Getting direction from him was incredible, and being able to work around talent like Felicia Rashad, who we all grew up watching on the Cosby Show. There's another gentleman named Elvis Nolasco who mentored me. So the best part about that whole experience, being my first television experience as an actor, was the fact that so many people on set were kind and giving to me. They were able to give me knowledge and information that I had not had before. And jumping into where I'm at now, that was the starting point where I realized eventually I'm going to have to give up my full-time corporate comfort and dive back into the grind of, waiting tables and doing things that I thought I would never do again in my life. But, to God be the glory. After I started waiting tables, only a year and a half later, I auditioned for Law and Order. I was on vacation with my girlfriend in Peru. And hi, Brenda, how you doing? I know she needs a shout out. So
smart man.
She's like, oh, make sure you tell them who was holding the camera. So I mean, she helped me with that audition in Peru for Law and Order, and I found out I got it. And now we're 6 episodes in. There's a new episode this coming Thursday, and it's just been the most amazing experience you could imagine for a young actor. I mean, the person who plays my father, Dylan McDermott, he's been teaching me the ins and outs of everything. He's been super kind on set. I've worked with legendary directors on set. And, obviously to be a part of the Law and Order universe, it's one of the longest running shows in American television history. It's globalized. There are fans all over the world that love Law and Order. And just to tell you a little bit about the difference of Law and Order organized crime compared to the past ones, fans have a chance now to dive into the storylines that are not police officers, because usually it's every episode on SVU is separated, but in organized crime, the whole season is a cohesive unit and you're able to follow the storyline throughout. So my character, Richie Wheatley, he's a young dude who's trying to find his way. His father and grandfather, his grandfather is a mobster. His father has turned organized crime into a more he's into a more organized situation of organized crime. Like, he's made it somewhat legitimate with his businesses. And Richie is pretty much trying to fit in and see where he fits within the family business, and also still doing his own thing. He drives an Aston Martin. He likes beautiful women, but he also is seeking the love of his father. Like, many of us wish we could do the first part, right? We all wish.
Yeah, right.
So that's pretty much my situation right now.
You know, I love hearing your story because it feels so touchable, so reachable. One thing that resonates from your story is you betting on yourself, you recognizing the opportunity, you following your passions, right? And so here's what I want to ask next. You know, being an actor to me is one of those fields similar to athletes and musicians, whereas the audience, we fall in love with the end result, right? And so what we often miss is the demand and the work ethic it takes to actually make the show work and to show up as your best self. And so what I want to ask you, well, what are some of your mindset strategies that you utilize to ensure that you are operating at your best self, you know, when it's lights, cameras, action?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is realizing that you are where you're supposed to be. You know, there's no mistake in where you're at. So there's a saying that my mom and people would tell me in my family is that God qualifies the unqualified. So, I mean, when I first got on the scene with this acting thing, I had somewhat of an imposter syndrome. I feel like I just popped up and I didn't really go through the regular route of where everybody was at. But I had to remember that, you know, Oprah Winfrey and Terrell McCraney, two people who have won tons of awards and they've been doing this for years, they wouldn't put somebody in front of the camera to represent them if they didn't think they would be represented right. So I had to just own the fact that I'm in the space that I'm supposed to be in. And I feel like once you realize that you are where you're supposed to be, then everything falls into place. And that might be, quote unquote, good, bad, or indifferent. You might be in a situation where you feel like you're in a rut right now. Things aren't clicking the way that you want them to be, but trust and believe that it all happens for a reason. Because if I didn't go through everything that I had been through at the time, like last year, I was wondering, you know, when is my next gig coming? Because David Makes Man came in 2018 and it's 2020, 2 years later. And I'm like, where are the roles, you know? But I wish I could go back to that person a year ago and just let him know, don't worry, like everything, you're supposed to be going through this right now to get to where you were at a year later. So yeah, just being present in the moment and knowing that you are where you are supposed to be.
Nah, that's beautiful stuff. I know a lot of people probably feeling the same vibes I'm feeling. This is powerful stuff, right? And so as you mentioned, whether good or bad, but here's what I want you to do next. I want you to offer two pieces of advice, right? And so the first, I want you to offer any advice to any youth out there who want to pursue their passion into acting. And then the second piece of advice I want you to offer is to their parents, right? On how best to support that youth in following their creative dreams.
Well, the first piece of advice, which some parents might disagree with, but you know what? You have to live with yourself at the end of the day. So I think the first piece of advice is to cancel out all the noise from family members or anybody that might say, you know what, maybe you should pick something else, like pick something more realistic or et cetera, depending on what you want to do. Because the minute that you think it's not possible, then it's not. But if you truly know and believe that something can happen because you've seen it done before, and this is why it's so important to me to be able to speak to younger people, like speak to high school students when I can, especially Black and brown high school students that aren't necessarily told they can achieve something greater than what they've seen in their specific communities. I think it's just important to know that the only person that can stop you is yourself. Nobody else can stop you. So it all starts with your mental state. Like if you truly want to do something, then repeat it to yourself, manifest it, write it down, create a vision board. It might sound foolish to some people, but if you ask Will Smith where he came from and how he started to dream about being where he's at, he was in West Philly and he just said, I don't know how, but I'm going to get to where I want to get to in life. And some people probably thought he was crazy, but is he crazy now? You know, so I think the main thing for young people is to dream as big as you possibly can and truly trust that you will be there. With parents, I think the minute a child shows passion about anything that's outside of the typical blue collar or regular life jobs, and nothing's wrong with any of that. My family is full of nurses, teachers, principals, construction workers. That's great if that's what you want to do, but it should never be forced, you know? So if you see your child dancing, if you see your child singing, if you see a child wanting to create art and things of that nature, don't stop them from that. Nurture that and see where it can take them. Because if everybody thought on that level of, no, my child needs to be realistic, then there would be no Spike Lee, there would be no Denzel Washington, there would be no Basquiat. So I think, you know, it's just important to allow your child to express themselves freely with whatever art they choose to do, and not tell them that it's unrealistic. They should be able to put their mind to whatever they want to do.
Indeed, man. There's some powerful stuff you shared with us today, Nick. And so this is what I want you to do. I want to first say thanks for spending this time with us, but please tell us about any of the projects you're working on, and where can people follow you, watch you, keep up with your movement? Let us know.
So I have some projects coming up later in the year, but right now, make sure you tune in every Thursday night at 10 p.m. on NBC, Law and Order Organized Crime. You can watch it the following day on Hulu and the Peacock Network. The Peacock Network is free, so be sure to stream that the next day if you don't have NBC. And you can follow me on all social media platforms at Nick Creegan. That's CREEGAN.
Fantastic, man. Nick, I appreciate you. Please enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, brother.
Most certainly. We will connect again.
All right.
So, appreciate you. Erwin.
You know, of course, we have to bring him back on because he has a lot more to say that we need to hear of, you know. And of course, you know that I'm watching TV. I'm watching TV again. Thank you very much. On behalf of Irie Jam, Freddie McGregor, we have a special song for you, my brethren. And there's a DJ on this platform by the name of Oxtail. I'm gonna arrange for Oxtail to reach out. But I just want to say how pleased we are and honored to have had you on the program this evening. That we have a special selection for you, just for you, and good luck in all your endeavors, my friend.
And one more thing, Mr. Claire, my family owns a house in Richmond, so
Lord of His mercy.
Yeah.
Goodbye. This one is for you. You know, Miguel, as the song plays in the background, he's truly a winner. And that's what we do here. And that's what we do here. We promote persons who are making things happen. And we must say how appreciative we are of you to bring on such a wonderful guest this evening, as you usually do. So your final comment, sir.
Yes, most certainly. We are so proud of Nick, man. We've come from the same streets. And so, Diaspora, I hope you enjoyed hearing this. I want you to continue to follow Melbourne Motivation on all social media platforms. That is on Instagram, Facebook. We also have a YouTube where you can go back, watch this interview again, right? But also check out pathwaytopurposenyc.com. This is where my team helped to ensure that other young Nicks out there are prepared for their next levels. And so until next week, be safe, live with big energy. Melbourne Motivation again next Tuesday. Erwin, I appreciate you.
One love. All the best, Nick. And remember, Rabalak came third, yeah?
Iriejam, the ultimate reggae experience.
93.5 VIP.